I am Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. ESPN, right before training camp, put up their 53-man roster projection for the Miami Dolphins. And I didn't want to talk about that. I could do my own roster projection. What I did want to talk about are the surprise cut candidates that Miami could cut based off the 53-man roster projection from ESPN. So before we get into all of that, make sure you do subscribe. There's a lot of reasons why you should subscribe to Dolphins Today. Daily content, live shows, news, rumors, anything in between. Another reason is why we are completely free. And you couldn't see the ESPN 53-man roster projection unless you had ESPN Plus. Well, that's $120 a year. You know how much money it costs to be subscribed to Dolphins Today? $0. Join the channel today for free content around the Fins every single day. All right, the first one that was, without a doubt, the most surprising cut candidate that the Dolphins' 53-man roster projection did not have was Alexander Mattison. This one was a stone-cold stunner for many reasons to me. One, because I think he's going to have a relatively good role this year for Miami. Two, they signed him in NFL free agency, and I know a one-year deal does not mean that you are going to be on the 53-man, but with a player with the notoriety and history that Alexander Mattison has, and I don't think he's washed by any stretch of the imagination, I was surprised to not find him on the 53-man roster projection from ESPN. So you probably are going to ask yourself, if he's not on the roster, then who was? Well, I'll tell you. Here are the 4 running backs that were on the 53-man roster from ESPN. Achane, Jaylen Wright. They kept the 6th-round rookie, Ollie Gordon. And then Alec Ingold. And Alec Ingold should not surprise anyone. I know he is a fullback, but he is going to be on the 53-man. He is a pivotal piece of this Mike McDaniel offense, and he is one of the top leaders on this Fins football team as well. So I am not going to complain. Like, I want all 4 of these players on the Dolphins roster. But there are some other position groups that maybe could have used a trimming, so Alexander Mattison could make the team. And I'll be honest with you. I'll be straight up right now. I have a hard time imagining Miami releasing Alexander Mattison. I just do not see that as something that will actually go down. I don't. This is a player Miami signed in the first week of NFL free agency with a purpose. There is a reason to why he is on this team, and it's to help combat the short yardage situations where Miami has struggled. Mattison is a freaking bowling ball, man. 5'11", 220. He's built like a truck. He was one of the most efficient running backs in 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 situations last year. 4 touchdowns for the Las Vegas Raiders. Didn't have the best yards per carry, but he will have a role on this football team. And I'm here to tell you right now, maybe I'm wrong. And if Freezing Cold Takes wants to clip this, they can. There is absolutely no way Alexander Mattison gets cut, barring something unforeseen injury-wise or relationship-wise with the organization. All right, what say you, though? Do you agree? Could Mattison get cut? I'm saying N for no. Let me know what you guys have to say down in the comments. Another player that did not make the Dolphins 53-man according to ESPN, second-year safety Patrick McMorris. The Kale one. And I got to be honest, this one just continues to grow and grow in terms of likelihood. It's a bummer because I really liked what McMorris brought to the table last year in training camp and in the couple preseason games he appeared in. But when you just think of what Miami has at the safety position, it's hard to imagine him on this football team. I mean, you got Minka Fitzpatrick in return for Ramsey and Jonnu. Awesome. He's your lead safety. You signed Ashton Davis and Melifanu in free agency, and I anticipate both of them being locks on this roster. You drafted Dante Trader Jr. in the 5th round, and it's very rare to cut a player drafted that high. And I know 5th round isn't high, but 5th round still pretty much guarantees you 1 year in the NFL. And plus, he is a really solid player. And then I would anticipate Elijah Campbell making the team. So the safeties that ESPN kept on their 53-man roster projection, I do agree with. And there just is really no way, in my opinion, that Miami keeps 6 safeties. I mean, Patrick McMorris would have to be one of the most impressive players in all of training camp and in the preseason for him to beat out Campbell. because Campbell is one of your top special teams guys in kick coverage and punt coverage. So he just gives you much more than being a safety on this team. So in my opinion, McMorris would have to be so good that it would force Miami to keep 6 safeties and cut a player from a different position group rather than cutting one of the 5 that was actually on the 53-man roster projection. Number 3, we'll go to Quinton Bell, the edge. And I will say, when we have done our cut candidates videos, McMorris and Bell have always been on our list because it just feels like writing on the wall. But when you look at what ESPN predicted and projected with their 53-man roster, especially at the edge department, it was what we have been saying for a very long time. Miami keeps 5 edges, the standard 3 of Chop Robinson, Bradley Chubb, and Jalen Phillips, but then the 2 younger guys that were both out of the 2024 draft class, Mohamed Kamara, a 5th-round pick, and Grayson Murphy, the UDFA out of UCLA, who has continued to impress in this offseason during OTA's minicamp and a little bit of training camp here. So I do believe that the Grayson Murphy stock is just going to continue to rise. We said in a video the other day that can buy stock now, like keep on buying. The hype just continues to grow. And I really do think when we're sitting here week 1 against the Indianapolis Colts, he might not be active for that game. He might be a healthy scratch, but I do think Grayson Murphy will be on that roster. It's a bummer, too, because I like what Quinton Bell, man. Is this not a Quinton Bell indictment? It's more of just like Mohamed Kamara is a solid young guy that we want to see one more year of at least. And then Grayson Murphy has continued to rise up the ranks. But like Quinton Bell is like, he had a pretty good year. For someone who wasn't expected to be on the team, he played and he made plays. So I do appreciate Quinton Bell. We'll see if the Dolphins are going to be able to keep him on the practice squad, or maybe they do keep him on the 53-man roster. Who knows? Tahj Washington cut in this one. And I'll be honest with this. I am not shocked by this. Like, I think consensus would be that Taj Washington doesn't make the 53-man roster, and he is hopefully kept on the practice squad. But the reason why I am surprised and I put him on this list is that ESPN projected 6 wide receivers to make the 53-man roster. I have consistently said 5, which is why I think Tahj Washington would be cut. But ESPN kept 6, which also shocked me as well because that bleeds into a player like Alexander Mattison being cut on this 53-man roster. But ESPN kept your core 4 of Tyreek, Waddle, NWI, and Malik. They kept D. Eskridge, which is something I do think ultimately happens due to his special teams value. But they kept the UDFA wide receiver out of Missouri, Theo Weiss Jr. And then if you are getting 6 wide receivers, well then, yes, I would consider Taj a surprise. But I do want people to keep an eye on Theo Weiss Jr. because this is a player who has done some nice things in OTAs and minicamp. He's a really solid route runner with strong hands. And I'm pretty sure Miami, if I'm remembering correctly, it was reported that the Dolphins gave him about $220,000 in undrafted free agency right after the April draft. Well, $220K for a UDFA, that's priority. They gave Storm Duck $230, $250 last year, and we know how much they like Storm Duck. So that tells me they like Theo Weiss Jr. a lot too, I think. So I do believe that this is a player we should keep an eye on, but him making the roster over Tahj Washington is a little bit of a surprise. It might be more surprising that Miami kept 6 in this roster projection. But make the call for me. Should Miami keep 5 or 6 wide receivers? Give me a number. 5 or 6. How many wide receivers do you think Miami should keep? Final cut candidate, Andrew Meyer, the center who was on the 53-man roster last season. He made the team. Didn't make it this projection. This is a player we have not talked about potentially being a cut candidate. And maybe it is much more likely now with some of the additions Miami made in the offseason. So, full transparency, we were filming this live when the Dolphins signed Daniel Brunskill on Tuesday earlier in the week. So these were the offensive linemen kept on the 53-man roster by ESPN. And I think this plays because you have your starters on the left And then Miami usually does keep about 3 or 4 as depth pieces. And on the right side is your depth. Larry Borum, the person you signed for agency, Liam Eichenberg, who's currently on the PUP list, but is going to be a key part on this team. Ryan Hayes was capped and Kean Smith was capped. But obviously, they signed Daniel Brunskill. And I would have to imagine that Daniel Brunskill will obviously replace Keon Smith as a depth piece on the right side of this graphic, which only does further indicate, in my opinion, that Andrew Meyer will ultimately be cut. Because you now have multiple interior offensive linemen depth pieces in Daniel Brunskill and Liam Eichenberg. And as much as we hate on Liam, which he deserves at times, I do want to point out he is very versatile. In his 4-year NFL career, he has played legit snaps at left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, and right tackle. So ideally, he is a solid backup because he could play all 5 positions. Now, Larry Borum's your number 1 backup swing tackle, but Liam Eichenberg can be your backup center, which Andrew Meyer was last season, to Aaron Brewer. So Liam could be your backup center. You have Daniel Brunskill, who, by the way, adding him to this roster, he has played 1,000 snaps in his career at center and 3,000 snaps at right guard. So now you have 2 guys in Brunskill and Liam who can play left guard, right guard, center as backups. And Liam can play tackle as well. And honestly, so can Brunskill. He played 310 snaps at right tackle in his career. So you have a lot of versatility on this offensive line, which is probably why Andrew Meyer, who is just a center, ultimately gets cut. Because if you're keeping depth pieces and those depth guys can play multiple positions, there's no reason to keep one that only can play one unless Andrew Meyer is really, really elite, which unfortunately for him, he is not. Well, make sure you are subscribed to the channel because when we get to roster cut down day at the end of August, we will have you covered with every move Miami makes. So subscribe, join the channel, and I'll see you with a video tomorrow. As always, go Fins.